sit there.
Constantly looking there. Like a Johnny Carson type thing?
Yeah, I mean,
What? No, I'm gonna do it. You're gonna have to interview.
No, I can't because they're too. So I'll figure out.
So who's gonna
The way I'm imagining.
No, they're interviewing. They're like.
Right there.
So we're not
So guys, once we start shooting,
When we stick our top levels to each other, and let the cameras do what it is, we're constantly looking at the camera like, there's number one thing in production is you never look at the camera. You never look at
okay.
That's why I was wondering where they were, because I want to answer.
So if you say something, someone might add on, and you're looking at that person rather than looking at their camera.
You never want to look at the camera.
Okay, so basically, you want them on the end, is what you're saying?
Correct.
So grab a chair, ladies. Grab a chair, please.
Yeah.
Grab a chair. Grab a chair on the end, please.
And then, we have to do our best not to look at the camera.
So we're looking at each other. We're just hanging out, having a cat kind of
That's
conversation.
exactly what it
Okay.
should be. At least in my opinion.
Sure. Let's get it.
Just keep it.
So
It's a casual conversation, so someone takes it on the table. It's over the table. You said what?
okay, can we get the girls in?
Girls, just come a bit closer.
Are the girls in?
There you go.
Are the girls in? Right now I can see. Can't see Alicia. I can.
Shama, adjust that camera so you get 3 on the end and then her.
Awesome. All right.
Zoom it out. Do you know how to zoom it
How do I
out?
zoom it out?
That first one still just shows the panel. Just shows the main one. Can you make it wider? Or shot?
Should we move the table?
So zooming in, tilt it this way, so now it's tilt that way.
I don't want it too close to me. You got enough of my
Health and safety. You might be wearing a low. We gotta zoom in. If I have to put on the list, the man. That's what the world's coming to, man. You can't use soap anymore to take a break.
You can use soap.
This water?
And oil.
I'm rocking. Here's the good stuff. The good stuff. Okay, we still can't see the girl though, even on that big TV. I can't see the girl.
I can see right there.
Yeah. Just a little. Can we get a little wider? Or
So it was nice, but I have to leave now.
okay, people gotta get out of here. What time is it, guys? 12 o'clock. We gotta start. We gotta start. This is the longest they left you alone for a while now.
Yeah, because I think my.
Just tell her to not see there.
Well, look at you though, because I'm the one holding it and you push me.
Okay.
I just love.
I'm not even looking at the camera. I'm keep asking the question. I'm
Don't
gonna
worry,
just
I'll
love
screw
that
you
story.
up.
You're
If I look at the monitor and do something, and then it moves afterwards, it's like.
Okay, you guys are on.
Okay.
Okay, so firstly, is Black History Month still relevant?
I think it's absolutely relevant. A lot of the history of Black people.
I'm gonna cut it. Stop. You gotta introduce this. So Adam, we gotta introduce everybody. Start again, please. You gotta introduce each other. So hello, here today, guest panel discussion. Here are our guest panelists. Let's start with that first, and then we'll get to the question. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No worries.
Okay, I'm gonna introduce, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we start again?
Why don't you play some music or something?
Okay. So hello, so today we are going to be doing our guest panel discussion, and here are our panelists and our guests, and they're going to be answering some questions about Black History Month and all that it entails. So firstly, we're going to ask the first question, is Black History Month still relevant?
So I'm Mr. Chambers, and I'm one of the vice principals here.
And my name is Mr. Francis. I'm a teacher at the school.
Mr. Eden, also a teacher at the school.
I'm Ms. Alcia Papawell, also a teacher at St. Francis Xavier.
Mr. Simmons, also a religion teacher.
Mr. Callender, theology department.
All right,
And who are
now,
you guys?
and I'm Alicia Shahani, I'm in grade 11 in St. Xavier.
And I'm Corday Boss, I'm grade 12.
So thank you very much, ladies, for agreeing to do this. And we definitely appreciate it.
Thank you for coming and answering our questions. So firstly, is Black History Month still relevant?
Well, I personally think Black History Month is absolutely relevant. we miss a lot of Black history in our history books and in our classes, and so I think it's important to focus on some of the struggles that Black people have had on different continents and in Canada, and to reflect on that and understand what some of the problems that we're currently facing today, how we can strive to meet those challenges and to do better.
I want to add on to that point. I think that's a great point. Like you were saying, I think nowadays especially, it's extremely relevant with the age of social media because we can get our message out there about not only past issues but current issues that face Black Americans and Black Canadians.
And to add into your point, you know, the reality is that if we're going to move forward as a people, I think it's important we recognize where we've been in the past and who we are in the present. The idea of fighting for equality was a major struggle that many of Black leaders and Black activists in the 20th century had to endure. And it's important that we recognize those challenges and we continue to fight for those same liberties that they provided for us in the 21st century. Because discrimination and racism, oppression, these things are still very much current. And if you don't continue to fight for these things, you're not reminded about these things, then you can have a situation where we can kind of go backwards and lose some of the valuable liberties that we've received.
So I think, because the thought seems to be going this way,
the wave.
And I think that Black history, it's good to have a Black History Month, but Black history shouldn't be taught in isolation. And so, in my view, I don't think other history is as important. But the problem in the past is that when we speak about Black history, a lot of times it's not in our curriculum and it's not written from our own perspective. So I think it's relevant. Black History Month gives us an opportunity to focus on it, but I think it's something that we should have all the time, and it shouldn't be in isolation.
Boy, it's interesting because I was going to say at the beginning of our conversation that I think every person's history is relevant to them. And some histories have a greater degree of issue, turbulation within that history. And it happens in a lot of cases, Black history is that way. But at the same time, it's nice for all the people to also embrace their understanding of what other groups go through. So I think that's, to me, as big of a message as anything, is how we look at each other and how we try to figure out how one person got to one stage and another person got to another stage. So.
Understanding a common struggle, absolutely. Yeah.
From those points?
Oh, on the last point. With that, hopefully, when we study and acknowledge and understand where people of the African diaspora have come from and what they've achieved, that will just be integrated into Canadian history, and not just have the second panel for how that has American history, or how that has British history or so.
And again, that's cross-cultural, that responsibility. It's not just dependent upon any one group of people.
For me, the personal part is, and some of you might not know this, but I'm the only black male administrator in this whole board in the secondary panel. So part of it is like, when I look at Black history, I don't want to perceive it as something like, oh, I should be involved just because of that. And it was something that I was proud of, but now I look to others and say, why is that? Like, we talk about the reality of the 21st century world. And are there barriers? Are some of them systemic? Are we going to get more people of color? Because having an administrator and leaders that are black, it's not just for black people. It tells everybody else that we're capable and we're professional and we can do the job. So I think it's important for that, especially because one, we're a Catholic school, and secondly, we look at the demographics of our school. So we want our leadership to reflect what our school actually looks like. And so I take it upon the youth, it's very important, education, for all of you to take it up and to be those things you want to be. And that we should celebrate that, we have this opportunity. And if we don't do something about it, then why should we have it? And finally, what I want to say, to go back to my original point, is that it shouldn't be something done in isolation. So it shouldn't be something just in February that those of us who care about equity and inclusion get involved, and then after February, we say, oh, well, what about us now? Because I think that's something that's happening in America. We have a black president, and now everybody's like, well, what about us? What about the rest of us? So we don't want it to be something divisive. We want it something to be included, that it should be in the history, so we're not just celebrating black history. We're celebrating a history of all.
I think the one thing that you mentioned Obama, and I think the one thing we missed twice. You gave me sharpers. The one thing that we sometimes don't realize is when you're asked for a call to leadership, and let's say you're of a particular gender, you're of a particular race, you're something that's unique to others in terms of that leadership you bring forward. The enormity of the burden that you carry, and in terms of that person, you being looked at, and a group of people saying, if you fall, well, that's that group, what did you expect, is something that we can't lose sight of. So when we talk about administrators, we talk about politicians, and this goes across the board, we have to, it's more than just, it's a collective in terms of how you support that person.
So we say support me. Because I'm
saying
you can be, yes. Like you were saying, we need to support each other so that we are here for each other.
Any other questions, ladies?
Yeah, so earlier I think all of you said that Black History Month is still relevant. So is there anything that should change or that you would like to see change with Black History Month?
I think that's something that I would like to see more of, and this is something that I'm reflecting when I was in high school and when I was in elementary school, we never were taught.
That was last year, by the way.
So I think the biggest thing is understanding that Black history, it goes far beyond slavery. I think when we're introduced to it, we're taught a lot about slavery, and we read a lot of books, or we watch the Underground Railroad movies, and our whole perception of me growing up was, oh, slavery is where Black people came from, and that's not the reality. There was culture, there was language, there was richness, there was royalty, and I think it's important to examine that part of life, see how we started there, and how we ended up here. Everything that happened in the middle is just as important as the rest of the story, right? So I think that's something that I would not want to see change, but added. Because I like where it's going, I just want to see a little more.
And just to add to that, so this idea of a complete picture around blacks over the last 400 years or so, I think is something we need to think about. And that goes directly to our curriculum and what we're teaching in our curriculum. And are we just putting in the part that says, let's highlight this for this period and then we're on, we talk about blacks for good, or we want to provide a complete picture. Let's talk about the idea of the richness of the black experience and the hardships of the black experience, and possibly how we're going to move forward as a community.
If I was to say, take a look at Black History Month, I would say, first of all, there's American Black History Month, and there's Canadian Black History Month. I mean, here's our reality. We've been a country for 150 years, and our biggest identities, or idols that we're talking about in terms of Black History Month, are from the States. And
with different experience, absolutely.
Well, different experience, but I mean, I don't hear anyone talking about Africa. I don't hear anyone talking about the Underground Railroad, right? And so that's not stuff that's you know, as paramount. And we need to be able to start building upon the figures that were critical. And maybe what we need to do is not idolize a person to this extent, but there are a lot of people that did a lot of work, and it's just as critical sometimes, those 10 people, as the person up here. Because without those 10, you don't get up here. So I think we need to do a better balance of that.
And again, I think that speaks directly to the curriculum. Right? There's opportunity for the curriculum to include more opportunities to talk about Canadian icons and Canadian events that helps throughout the Black History Movement. I think I would agree with you 100%.
And I would finally say I agree with that education piece. I almost want to go into Black Future Month and not just constantly be thinking about the history. We definitely need the history to go forward, but we need to put programs in place to make sure we can meet the challenges of the future. And this is just not for Black Canadians, this is for everybody. As a country right now, Canada has to be competitive, and if we leave anybody behind, we are not going to be competitive. We are globally seeing countries that are going through major, major challenges, and if we do not use our brain power to make this country great, whether we're black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter, and challenge our kids in schools, we are not going to be a successful country. We have to stop fighting each other and make sure that we are giving our best at everything we do, at every level. My slogan that I use in my home is educate to liberate. We absolutely need to do that to make sure we know the history of everybody, they know their cultures, and we are making sure all of our people are going forward together as Canadians.
But also to, let's make no mistake, if you're a parent of any kid of any race, you got a responsibility to tell the heritage of your race, you know, of your family, where you came from, your upbringing. So that's black, white, green, yellow, and so, you know, that's the balance in terms of giving your kid an understanding of where they started and where their roots are.
Now to finally just end on a more positive note, what aspect about Black History Month makes each individual of you proud?
I think the students coming together and taking part in workshops, or even watching documentaries and seeing their opinions on certain events or certain people and what they learn. I think it's an opportunity for them to reflect how that happened in their lives.
Yes, I would say is when I first came to Xavier, they used to have this one-off event, and if you were involved, excuse me, if you were involved in it, you were kind of not ridiculed by your colleagues, but you were kind of looked at. And the fact that we can be having this kind of forum and feel comfortable enough to be able to step at the table, it's a different feeling. It's a positive feeling.
For me, again, I would have to agree. It's a multiculturalism, and it is all the people coming together to learn about each other. And that makes me proud.
And I want to reiterate the same sentiment. I think inclusivity. I'm not black.
No.
But,
And you had us fooled.
And just like Mr. Simmons said, I always felt when I was younger, when I was even in university, there was like this thing where people would look at you in a certain way, or they would judge you in a light, and the inclusivity that I felt when wanting to participate by everyone over here really makes me proud and happy to know that it's something bigger than just me or just one person. It's to include everyone through this one lens. You can see more than what you think. So
Every day, every single one of us faces challenges, and sometimes those challenges can paralyze us. And when I see challenges for myself personally that I have to try to overcome, I I can easily just go to the idea of there have been people who have struggled and who are much more difficult challenges than I will ever have to face. Gives me that little bit of energy that I need to make sure that I am focused and I am able to set my mind straight so that I can work out a problem to fix things. So for me, this is the idea of what I'm proud of is just the courage and the perseverance that people who were being oppressed, people who were being discriminated against, were able to use to better themselves. Oh, you're up.
Oh, okay. It's funny when you don't want to have to ask questions. So I'm just proud to be part of this community, and I'm proud that when we speak about Black History Month, there's not the antagonism that it might have been perceived before. It seems like it's inclusive. You know, we have white panelists, and we have all this crew that's so diverse, and you know, I commend all of you.
And our committee.
Yeah, that are here. So it's sort of like when they say you can't see who's behind the camera, but there's a lot of us that are inclusive, and that makes me proud to say that it's, you know, soon we're not going to say Black History Month, we're just going to say that we're here and we belong and we're all sharing the history that is everybody's history. And I think that's what Black History Month's really about.
Well, I want to say thank you to our guest panels and for talking and volunteering your time to talk about this important event and issue that we need to talk about in our school. Thank you for watching, Xavier.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Show me the money.
Hey, that's it, man. I'm ready for prime time now. Hey, ABC. See ya. Mr. Simmons, thank you very much. I know it's a